All right, guys. Well, I wanted to give everyone an update on the Middle East with Donald Trump trying to end this Israeli Palestinian conflict. We've got some concerning developments when it comes to Iran and everything that's been going on there in terms of apparently at least this is what's being said, and this really has never made any sense to me. I understand there's history with Trump and Iran, but they have to understand if they do anything to Trump, their country is going to be bombed to hell. But there is more in terms of the assassination attempts, and obviously that's kind of coded language when it comes to people involved in wanting Trump dead. We're going to talk about that here in a second, but first we have to get to this. Trump saying, I'm committed to buying and owning Gaza. We are committed to owning it, taking it, and making sure Hamas doesn't come back. I guess they can't spell the Hamas name. I don't know if it gets them demonetized or something, but yeah, so there could be a few things going on here when it comes to what Trump wants to do with the Gaza Strip. Obviously, if you want a two-state solution, which I had originally thought it seemed like that's what Trump wanted, he gets into the White House, he has the meeting with Netanyahu, and it changes completely. Now he's saying maybe an annexation not only of Gaza, which he wants the United States to own, and he said in this video he is pushing for the idea, at least right now, to the public. Maybe what he's saying behind closed doors is different, but from a public negotiation perspective, he's saying he wants to own the Gaza Strip, potentially with other countries like Saudi Arabia, possibly UAE, and develop some type of economic zone there, which would be amazing for Israel. This is exactly what Israel wants. They want Hamas, they want the Palestinians gone. And I mean, when you look at where the Palestinians currently are, the West Bank, I guess, is a little bit different, but the Gaza Strip, I mean, if they do come to some type of a ceasefire agreement that ends the war, what's to say another war isn't going to kick up within the next few months just because of where they're located? So it becomes this thing if you're Trump to where, it's very hard to talk about this without understanding the involvement Israel has and the impact that their lobbying situation is within the United States with AIPAC and the amount of Congress people that are in bed with them, and certainly the whole idea of them being our greatest ally. What if they were to be our greatest ally? I think it would have to be an equal partnership arrangement. I don't view it as that. When you say, well, the Middle East would be a lot more, destabilized if we didn't prop Israel up. What are we doing in the Middle East in the first place? We want to avoid the Middle East. It's like the situation with Trump and Iran. Now you've got Iran apparently saying they're going to try and assassinate Trump. There's reports saying that Trump has had to be super careful recently. Everything you touch in the Middle East goes to complete shit. And if Trump does this, there should be at least a situation to where you tell Israel, listen, we've had problems here. We're going to do this. We're going to relocate the Palestinians. We're done, though. Okay, we cannot keep doing this. This is not a healthy relationship for the United States. I would hope Trump says something like that to where at least if you help Israel, you get the Palestinians out of there. I don't know. There's talk of them sending them to Western countries. Oh my goodness, that cannot happen. I think there was talk. I don't want to say anything false, but I heard Trump saying maybe some Palestinians could come to the United States. No, I think MAGA is going to be very angry if something like that happened. And I know there's like this meme, well, the base will like whatever Trump does. But about this situation with Israel, there certainly has been a change in terms of just our involvement in the Middle East. And listen, I do agree with Trump. If you are going to end this war with a two-state solution or something like that, there's really no point because it's just going to start again. Right? This is a deeply seated issue. And the only way to make sure it doesn't happen again is, people say it's ethnic cleansing. That's a loaded word. I mean, that is relocating people. I mean, but it's not it's not a genocide. If you were to relocate the people, obviously the Gaza Strip, and this is what Trump says. He says it's completely destroyed, and it is, but it's destroyed because of bombs from Israel funded by the United States. Now, I'm not going to sit here and stick up for Palestine with their situation and who they're led by, but all around it's a very bad situation. But it does seem like Trump is definitely taking the side of Israel, And so it's like, well, let's try and move to get out of the Middle East. If you give, I mean, I don't know where you ideally, I guess the Palestinians would go to Jordan or Egypt, and then you get no Western countries involved, and hopefully Trump says we're going to scale back involvement when it comes to Middle Eastern affairs because they're so bad. I mean, for every administration, they're horrible when it comes to U.S. presidents. But you have that, and then you also have another thing. Let me see if I can find it. I think it's down here. Justin Axios, Trump's team was warned that Iran's assassination threats were more serious than reported. Iran allegedly placed operatives in the U.S. with surface-to-air missiles to target his plane. You guys remember during the campaign trail when it came out that Trump's plane had to be diverted? I don't think it was because of that. I mean, who knows? They're not. The thing is, when it comes to these like situations in terms of Trump assassination attempts, a lot of the times if there was an alleged attempt, I would imagine they would just keep it quiet because notifying the public does a lot more harm than it does good in terms of just people being worried about Trump and conspiracies and things like that. But you have to wonder when Trump's plane diverted and they said it was some type of engine issue or something, if maybe there was something with Iran involved in that. But Iran, it's like, I understand Trump ordered the assassination of their military leader, but they have to understand if they do something to Trump, their country is going to be utterly destroyed. But I mean, this is like an Iraq 2.0 if something happens to Trump now. But Trump has said, and I don't blame Trump for saying this. I know people were saying, well, what Trump said was very stupid because it's like a green light for, actors within the Middle East that would like to see Iran get destroyed to potentially target Trump. But obviously, I mean, if Trump's talking about his own assassination here, so obviously he's going to say, listen, if you do anything to me, your country is going to be obliterated. So to me, that's the least surprising thing ever that Trump would say that. But I mean, they have to already know that. That's why I'm like, Iran, yes, Trump's, every president does stuff in the Middle East and you try and contain stuff and you order certain things. And Obama had some big issues in the Middle East himself when it came to assassinations, and then it creates destabilization and it creates animosity, just like this situation. I mean, the difference with the Palestinians is they don't have a lot of allies over there, so even if there is animosity against the United States, hopefully it's contained, but you're playing with fire with this type of stuff. So, I mean, I don't understand why Iran would want to have their own country be destroyed by assassinating Donald Trump. I know Trump's involvement with Iran. They're angry. He ordered an assassination, but still, you want to do this to the leader of the most powerful country in the world. But then this just is more involvement in the Middle East. Let's just get this Israel-Palestine situation sorted out, and if we could just back off and maybe have an executive order to like a de-escalation in the Middle East, I think that would be ideal. Because all of our main issues for the United States, it all stems, at least when it comes to actual war. I mean, obviously you have the Ukraine situation, but that's a separate one-off thing. The problem with these Middle Eastern conflicts, just one leads to another, leads to another, leads to another, leads to another, and it becomes a bigger issue. So if Trump is able to clean out the Gaza Strip, I don't think the United States, and Trump is not dumb. He understands that the base does not want U.S. troops into the Gaza Strip. That would have to be troops from other countries that would facilitate the removal of Palestinians to not Western countries. By the way, I also heard Ireland was potentially planning on taking some not Western countries. They would need to go elsewhere, somewhere in the Middle East. There's like an island. People are talking about them possibly being placed at. But I mean, this is what happens when you have two factions fighting each other constantly, and so this is what's going to have to happen. They obviously cannot play nice together, and obviously the Palestinians think they should have control. The United States backs Israel, and I mean, it's a very, very long, complicated conflict, but October 7th did in part cause this. And so listen, the United States needs to just back away. We ideally for Trump, I think it's let's get without US troops the Palestinians relocated elsewhere. I mean, I don't know, what do you do with the West Bank? because it seemed like I read somewhere that Trump wanted to annex it as well, which honestly, that's exactly what Israel wants. I'm sure Israel wants the West Bank annexed. They'll probably take, because people are saying, well, Israel wants that land, wants the Gaza Strip. But I mean, if they, for them, this is an amazing trade-off. The Gaza Strip is completely destroyed. The amount of investment it would take to rebuild that, have the daddy United States come in and rebuild it for you, and also other countries, maybe in some type of economic zone. It wouldn't be owned by the United States, I wouldn't think, outside of like proxy ownership or something. Like, we don't need people going there in terms of U.S. troops keeping the Gaza Strip, which would potentially be annexed, safe. It just doesn't. It's not what the base wants. The base wants no deployment to the Middle East at all. So, listen, maybe that would be best case scenario in terms of this. Again, I don't know exactly what they're going to do with the West Bank, but Israel's going to push for annexation of it. We know that. So, but I mean, the problem here lies the involvement the United States has in the Middle East. I mean, it just creates more animosity with countries because you're helping Israel, you're hurting Palestine. It's not like Palestine has a ton of allies, which would be good in terms of keeping that contained to the people that don't like you, but it's just like the problems that Obama had in terms of the destabilization, and obviously Trump as well, with the assassination of their military leader, and it creates a situation like this. But again, for Iran, why would you target Donald Trump? Do you understand what that means for your country? So maybe we need to think a little bit deeper in terms of who, this whole idea, because I kept hearing that during the campaign. Iran is targeting to kill Trump. They would not shut up about it. They would not shut up. And it never made sense to me, and it still doesn't make any sense to me. And you want to talk about an Iraq 2.0? You want full circle? Yeah, the last thing we need is anything to happen to Trump. The last thing we need. I mean, our economy would be destroyed. And obviously, Trump is doing a lot right now, and with everybody connected to the internet, you want to talk about conspiracy 101 if anything happened to Trump. I mean, think about, they've already shut down the Crooks kid, and we won't even. And now Trump apparently has ordered a special investigation. There wouldn't be any investigation into it if the Democrats had won. The Democrats thinks it's just that some random kid who weighs like 105 pounds, he's like 22 years old, can go to the roof of a building definitely within shooting distance of an AR, and be able to fire off shots at Trump's head. And it's just, there was nothing wrong there. It was just a security problem. That's it. I mean, they shot him in the ear. You can see a bullet whizzing behind Trump's head. And their viewpoint is we have to accept that and move on. And there was nothing going on there other than, the Secret Service just didn't do their job, or they didn't locate him, even though he had a rangefinder to be 2 hours before the event. I mean, this is next level dumb. And if Democrats had won, there's no, and there might still not be anything that comes out about that kid. But that just shows you the lack of transparency within our government. So when it comes to this Iran stuff, we don't want involvement. We really don't. We've had our involvement in the Middle East. We're going to figure out this Israel-Palestine thing. I know people say Trump is owned by Israel. I understand it. It's not a good look what Trump had done, when he had Netanyahu and he pushed out in his chair. It's a bad look, but I'm wondering with Trump, is there another layer to it? Is this a negotiation tactic? But even if it is a negotiation tactic, how is there going to be? This is the other thing that I agree with Trump. There's going to be a two-state solution with the Palestinians owning the Gaza Strip that's completely destroyed and been bombed to death. And I know that's almost like gaslighting, like, well, it got destroyed by Israel, so that means you're saying Israel should own it. But what should happen to it? There needs to be some type of facilitation in terms of how this is going to be solved. So at least Trump is trying to do that. And if it's going to be solved, it's going to have to be some type of rebuild of that area, which it would be countries from the outside rebuilding it with resources that they have that neither Israel or Palestine really possess at this point. So that does make sense what Trump is saying. Obviously, it is very good for Israel. It's very bad for Palestine, although that area is already destroyed. And yes, that was mainly destroyed by by Israel. You could say, well, that goes back to October 7th. I get it. But it was a bit of a, there's a lot, there's a lot of stuff that gets reported. You could say it's an overreaction, but either way, it's like these two fractions cannot play nice. There's going to have to be some solution here. So I agree with Trump saying that, the idea that we would negotiate a two-state solution. I mean, with the West Bank is a little bit different, but it doesn't seem like that's even happening either. They're all gonna leave, and then that's where the term ethnic cleansing comes into play. Again, people equate that to like a genocide. That's not what it is. It's just the removal of people from an area and relocating them. That's what it is. I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm just saying that's what it is, and it's a loaded word, and they use that against Trump. And look, I'm not saying it. This is just not a good situation for the United States to be involved in. But obviously, our congressmen, they love Israel, and they think that's right. And certainly, I think Palestine, I mean, they are controlled by a terrorist organization. I mean, how do they expect support? But either way, guys, that's just the current situation. That's going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.